The old hospital loomed above them, a monolith of shadow against the dying light. St. Helena's. Even the name, whispered in the twilight, carried a chill. Built in the 1920s, abandoned in the 80s, it was a place of whispers and rumours. Locals told of strange disappearances, particularly from Ward E, the psychiatric wing. No records remained, no explanations were ever offered, just empty beds and unanswered questions. The friends, young and foolhardy, brushed off the stories as folklore. They saw only an adventure, a chance to test their courage against the darkness. They approached the main entrance, its heavy doors hanging open like a predator's gaping maw. The air grew cold, thick with the scent of decay and something faintly metallic. The silence was absolute, broken only by the crunch of their own footsteps. They were stepping into the belly of the beast, and it knew they were there. Dust motes danced in the weak beams of their flashlights, illuminating peeling paint and rusted medical equipment. They moved deeper, each footstep echoing in the cavernous halls. The air hung heavy, thick with the weight of forgotten suffering. Sarah, the bold one, laughed nervously. Anyone feel like they're being watched? They pressed on, reaching the day room of Ward E. A sense of wrongness pervaded the space. The air felt colder here, stagnant. Mark swore he saw a figure flit past the doorway, a fleeting shadow that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He dismissed it as a trick of the light, but a seed of unease had been planted. On the wall someone had scrawled strange symbols in what looked like charcoal. A spiral, an eye, an inverted cross. Occult symbols. Fear, sharp and cold, began to prickle at the edges of their bravado. Ward E was a labyrinth of small rooms, each one containing a bed, a nightstand, and the lingering scent of despair. Some rooms held remnants of their former occupants, a book, a comb, a child's doll with one button eye hanging precariously. The friends moved slowly, their voices hushed as if afraid to wake something best left undisturbed. The temperature dropped further. A low hum, barely audible, seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. John, the quiet one, pointed to a message scratched into the wall. They're listening. Panic, raw and visceral, threatened to break through their carefully constructed facade of bravery. They were not alone. They were being watched, herded, hunted. A sound, faint but unmistakable, drifted down the hallway. Piano music. A melancholic melody played with a haunting precision. It drew them forward, deeper into the heart of the ward. They reached a common area where a grand piano sat, its ebony finish coated in dust. The music seemed to flow from the instrument itself, played by unseen hands. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Who would be playing the piano in this god-forsaken place? As the music swelled, growing in intensity, they noticed the keys depressing as if played by a phantom. The melody shifted, becoming discordant, frantic, filled with a terrible urgency. Terror, cold and paralyzing, gripped them. They were no longer guests in this place. They were prisoners. Fleeing the unsettling melody, they stumbled through the corridors, their flashlight beams dancing erratically in the dark. The air grew heavy, punctuated by pockets of intense cold that seemed to cling to them like icy fingers. Whispers followed them, too soft to decipher, yet filled with a palpable malice. John, his face pale and drawn, swore he felt something brush past him, a chill that pierced through his clothes, leaving a trail of goose flesh in its wake. His breath formed icy plumes in the air. He was not imagining it. Something was toying with them, herding them deeper into the labyrinthine ward. They were trapped in a nightmare, and the lines between reality and delusion were blurring. They stumbled upon a room at the end of the hall, its door slightly ajar. From within, the faint sound of sobbing reached their ears, a low, mournful wail that sent shivers down their spines. It was a primal sound, filled with a despair so profound it seemed to seep from the very walls. Driven by a mixture of morbid curiosity and a desperate need to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the hallway, they pushed the door open. The room was small, bare except for a single bed and a chair overturned in the corner. The walls were scratched and gouged, as if someone had clawed at them in desperation. On the floor, written in what appeared to be blood, was a single chilling word: help. As they stared in horror, the sobbing intensified, morphing into a gut-wrenching scream that seemed to tear through the very fabric of their sanity. Panic seized them. They ran blindly, desperately through the endless corridors, the echoes of their own footsteps mixing with the fading screams. The air was thick with fear, a palpable entity that clung to them, choked them. "Don't look back," John thought, his heart pounding against his ribs. "Don't look back or they'll see you." But curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination, compelled him to steal a glance over his shoulder, and in that fleeting moment he saw her. A figure shrouded in shadow gliding effortlessly behind them. Her eyes, two burning embers in the darkness, seemed to bore into his very soul. He didn't scream, he couldn't. He simply turned and ran, the image seared into his mind. They burst out of Ward E, gasping for breath, their clothes soaked in a cold sweat. They had escaped, or so they thought. As they stumbled through the main hall, desperate to reach the exit, a figure materialized from the shadows. A nurse, her uniform stained and faded, her face obscured by the darkness. "Lost, dears?" Her voice, a raspy whisper, sent chills down their spines. "Let me show you the way." They recoiled from her touch, her hand cold as ice, her eyes burning with an unholy light. This was no ordinary nurse. This was something ancient, malevolent, and it had been waiting for them. They ran, but the nurse was faster, gliding effortlessly through the halls, her laughter echoing behind them. They were herded like cattle back towards Ward E, their sanctuary, now their prison. The doors slammed shut before them, the sound final, absolute. They were trapped. The nurse, her grin a grotesque parody of comfort, approached them. "No one ever leaves St. Helena's," she whispered, her voice dripping with malice. "You're ours now, forever patients in our little ward." They understood then. They were not the first victims, and they wouldn't be the last. St. Helena's was a hungry beast, and they were its latest meal. The piano music started again, this time closer, more insistent. But it was no longer melancholic. It was triumphant, celebrating their capture, their assimilation into the hospital's grim tapestry. The friends huddled together, their faces pale with terror as the shadows lengthened and the darkness closed in. Their screams, when they finally came, were swallowed by the thick silence of the hospital. Outside, the moon rose, casting an eerie glow over St. Helena's. The wind howled through the broken windows, carrying with it the faintest hint of laughter. And then, silence. The hospital stood alone once more, its secrets safe within its walls, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting souls foolish enough to tempt fate.